Audience exclusive.
Hello, welcome back to Beautiful Subconscious. I am your host, Shell Marie, and it has been a fun couple of weeks since this podcast has launched. I am so grateful for the people that have reached out and celebrated and also just gave back feedback where they are now, I guess, more open or becoming a bit more curious as to the things that they have always just known to be true. What if there was something else? Like, what if there was another way? And that honestly is exactly what I am aspiring to help just plant, I guess, in the ears of the listeners, because there is so much more in the unknown than in the things that we've always just known to be the way that it is. And why do we need to settle for that? And so that leads me into today's episode, which is you are the common denominator of your environment. And that's a good thing. So a lot of us can fall, and I'm going to use, say, inverted commas, victim to our situations, to our environment, to our thoughts, to our self-belief. And when I say we fall victim, it's because we've just become so accustomed to thinking that that's just how it's always going to be. And the first thing is, when did you decide for that to be true? When did you actually decide that this is all I'm worth, or this place where I live is as good as it's going to get? This relationship, I should be lucky and just settle. This career, I am so passionless for it, but what else is there for me to do? And so when you question where did these all originate from and why are they there, you can start to really bring to awareness what beliefs you've just allowed to dictate your life. And when you start to bring things that have been so default, that have been so subconscious, into the line of curious, conscious questioning, you can start to hear other opportunities, other answers, other ways of doing life. And that's where you can really start to change. And so, in the words of Deepak Chopra, look at the world as a reflection of your inner state. That's exactly what we're talking about today. You are the common denominator of your world. Everything that you're experiencing, all the encounters that you're having, even though they might feel kind of shitty, sorry to say, you are the common denominator. You are on some level what has drawn this in. And we'll talk to it on an energetic level. So when we understand that everything that's a matter form originates in energy, energy comes before matter. Everything is just a response to the way energy is interacting and changing form and transmuting. So it's all about understanding that the situation of your relationship, that took a whole bunch of settling and belief systems activated in default, and a whole bunch of wounds and a whole bunch of really great values perhaps that have all accumulated to be how it currently is now. And there can be some amazing things for sure. And that's what we want to keep enhancing. We want to keep allowing this to be more and more and more of that. And if there's areas in your relationship, I'm using this as an example, but in any area where it's like career or the relationship that you have with money, it's like, when you are in alignment and it feels good and you feel empowered and you feel confident and, life just feels like it's going in such a great direction, that's what we want. That's when energy is in its most optimal state. When you are triggered or there is a space of fear and wounds that are activated or scarcity that's activated, this is where your body is communicating that you are working against your innate state of ease and alignment. So I'm going to give you an example of how that showed up for me in my life and through what was revealed in kinesiology. So there was probably about a month ago, I was driving along the freeway first thing in the morning, and I noticed, I was driving on the right lane. So going speed limit, if not a little bit more. And it was on the way to yoga, and I looked through my rearview mirror and there was someone that was right up my ass, so much so that you couldn't even see their own headlights because it was still early in the morning and dark at that point. And I was just like, man, he is up my freaking ass. What is his deal? And he's like swaying to the side. And I'm like, I'm not going any faster. Like, this is as fast as I'm going to go. And it was, I believe a good, a decent amount over the speed limit. And he ended up, getting into the lane next to me and getting into the lane even further away and taking the next exit. But like the passive aggressiveness, I was like, what was that about? Jeez, I'm like just waking up here and you are literally up my ass first thing in the morning. What's his deal? And then so after yoga, there was another encounter at a set of traffic lights. And when there's two separate lanes and you're going across the traffic lights when it turns green and it forms one lane, this particular person, and it wouldn't have been in my awareness if it wasn't something that was related to me. Things happen past us all the time. We're not consciously aware of every little thing that's existing around us because we're not aligning to it, whether we want to be or not. So when I was at this set of lights, when it turned green, this car next to me revved up his car and just took off. I was like, all right, I'm not go first, it's fine. And I'm like, God, he was passive aggressive too. And it was like two incidents within the morning where there was a display of passive aggressive. Who was the common denominator out of two very separate situations? Me. And so in the line of work that I am, that's where I start to question, okay, so there's something outwardly here that I'm projecting without me really realizing of how I'm passive aggressive or how passive aggressive is playing out within inside of me. And look, I get it. Like it can be like, what the heck? There's two different incidents. It just happened. Don't look too much into it. That seems like so I get that line of thinking too. And that's okay. That's where your line of thinking is going, for sure. Go for that. But my question is like, why these two different situations? And it created some sort of little trigger within me. I'm just like, okay, there's something that's being shown to me. And yeah, I could brush it off for sure. I could completely, disregard it and be like, no, that's got nothing to do with me. It's just their issue, X, Y, Z. But if we know, or you may start to become aware that when you brush those things off and those things just start to keep showing up and they start to keep showing up. And then before you know it, every day there's just more scenarios of passive aggressiveness until that just becomes the way that you interact. And it's like, why is that the way that it is, or why does it need to be that way? And just coincidentally, I was having a kinesiology swap with one of my kinesiology colleagues, and I shared that both different scenarios. And what was revealed in that particular moment was how I was being passive aggressive to myself in my thoughts, in my default thoughts of I need to get further in my career now. Like there's this like a hurry up, you're taking too slow. And it's just this undercurrent of passive aggressive to myself from myself. And it was revealing that like there was zero patience, zero tolerance, zero compassion for where we've been, and just being okay with the journey. It's like hurry, rush, move everything out of the way, catapult forward. And that really resonated with me because I'm like, I do have tendencies where I'm just hurry up, it needs to happen now, and just wanting to steamroll my way to wherever now is now, whatever needs to be happening now. And it just was reflecting in my outer world, revealing like, hey, this is operating from a space that's not in your best interest and it's not in your well-being. So I'm missing the messages of the feather, and now I'm starting to notice. I'm not going to say that the passive aggressive on the road were the bricks, but it starts to show itself in its external environments. And so the moment I looked at that within myself, that came to the forefront. I was like, this is so fascinating because, yeah, you're right. Like I had zero tolerance for myself to let the journey take and be the journey that it needs to be right now. It's just like, no, move. Like if I need to push myself and distract myself, that's how it's to get done, and that it's so self-harming, even on a really sort of minute way. It's happening, and then it will progressively get worse until you notice what's really playing out. And so since that balance and bring that awareness and being like, hey, you know what? What's this really driving here? What's really driving this passive aggressive, this lack of acceptance, this lack of you're not going to make it unless you go a million miles a minute? It's fear, of course. It's fear of, failing. It's fear of, am I ever going to make this? Fear of survival. And when you really start to bring that information up of like, all right, yeah, look, deep down, I am scared. I am scared. Like, what if that doesn't eventuate? What is that going to look like? And you play that all out until you neutralize it as just another thought that doesn't necessarily mean that it's true. It's just a thought that you've hooked into, and it's starting to now get more of your energy, more of your awareness, and you're going in that direction unless you subconsciously bring it to the limelight and be like, you know what, I see that playing out, and you completely deactivate it. And you can come back to a neutral state of like, I'm okay. I'm like more than okay. Life is actually really great. I'm on this journey. I've achieved so much. I'm so proud of where it's at. I'm so proud of the lessons. I'm so proud of the compassion that I deserve to have. And I'm going to allow for compassion for myself. And then when you switch into those emotions and when you switch into that level of frequency, things become more harmonious. Your external world becomes more harmonious. No shit. Like there was opportunities that came that afternoon because I moved the pressure of just distracting myself and harming myself on an energetic level and allowed space for just some really beautiful opportunities to come my way. So it's really no joke. Your external environment is an absolute reflection of what's going on with you. You are that common denominator. And you can even like put it into, say, dating. Like when you're dating and you've dated one person, you're like, oh, that's interesting, with these traits of, what can I say, like non-committal, where they're like, you're just wanting to go by the beat of their own drum, which, the independence can be okay. And then you're like, yeah, you know what? I'm ready for a commitment. I'm ready for that journey with someone. And then you're noticing that next person might be the same non-committal. It's like, all right, where am I not committing to myself? Because these people are reflecting back at me parts of myself that I'm unaware, where I'm not really committed, or I say that I am and I'm not really taking the actions to show that I'm committed. So it's always a beautiful opportunity to discover and explore more about yourself. And the more that you know about yourself and the more that you become more aligned to the version that you want to be, because you've shifted out these blocks and these blind spots, your whole external world changes. You call in the people that are aligned to exactly that. There is zero interference and zero distortion that have you pulling in people that you're like, whoa, I'm saying one thing, but I'm getting like the completely opposite. It's because everything within you is aligned to what you're actually saying. And so that is just an easy space where you can connect with people that are having zero interference with what you're wanting, and they reflect the same thing back. So that is what I love. So if there is something that you can take away, it would be to start questioning, when did I decide this to be true? That situation at work with these colleagues that I might not be getting along with, what's happening here that I might be confrontational or, low-key conflicting within myself? What's happening really externally? What am I being shown externally? And what's that here for me to learn? And when did I decide that this might be the only way? We can be so pessimistic that anything else other than what you've been used to is full of shit, and everything that could be optimistic is woo-woo. And it's just like, sure, you can choose that, and that can be your ride for sure. But I know that sounds exhausting AF, and that sounds depleting AF. And if I'm going to go for something that is going to expand me and energize me, I'm going to pick that every step of the way. So anything that drains me, I know is a sign of just like, all right, there's something here. I'm going to question it and be like, what's going on here? Because I choose to empower myself with something else. I'm choosing to empower myself with the confidence or the ease or the action to go after what I want. And I'm not going to settle for like, this is just how it's always been. And, everything else is just BS. because everything else is BS in your beautiful subconscious, and you've got the right to rewrite that. So question everything. I question, and I know it can sound exhausting, but what's more exhausting is living your life on a space of default and settling and just allowing yourself to be disempowered. That's what's exhausting. So empower yourself with just questioning, like, all right, what's this showing me? Or why is this here? And just watch what is revealed through circumstances, through emotions, through awarenesses, through interactions. And you then get to choose something other if that's what you want. So thank you for tuning in. Let me know your thoughts on this episode. I would love to hear where it landed, if it landed. And yeah, I'm very grateful to be on this ride with you. So until next week, take care of you.